beforehand?
We only have to replace the attendance cost must be replaced. The T4,
No, the pages. Isn't paginated?
Yeah, but they have to go through. I don't know if they will find it easy. 34, 31. Oh, okay. 34, 31. We give him this last.
Why would they find it difficult?
Because you have to slot it in.
Is it not paginated?
Mine. But yeah. I've got, I think, enough pages for today.
Did you take any sticky notes?
A couple.
You got the new one.
Good morning, all. It's 29 minutes past 9. We are ready to start the day's proceedings. Please make sure that your devices are on silent, that they are quiet. Thank you.
Good morning, Ms. Hassim. Good morning, Mr. Valley.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, Commissioners.
Thank you.
Morning, Chair. Good morning, Commissioners. Commissioners, we stopped on Friday when I was midway through the chapter on tenders. Before we return to that chapter, I'd like to revisit one of the chats that I raised in relation to General Khan's conversation with a crime intelligence officer from KZN, the name that I didn't mention, you'll recall. I'm still not entirely sure whether to reveal the name. And the reason for that is that the officer, it is possible that the officer works undercover and it might create a risk to himself or other people that he works with. That's the only reason. But, Commissioners, I will establish whether that is in fact the case. I'm only hesitant because I don't know enough. But once I establish what the factual situation is and whether there's indeed any risk, we can then disclose, if there isn't, then we can disclose the name publicly. So I will do that as soon as possible. But that's not the only reason I want to go back to that chat, because since I raised it on Friday, I've obtained information that's relevant to that chat, which I'd like to put before the Commission. If I may just take the Commission back to the chat to begin with. This is where there's a media article, and it's an article in the Daily Maverick by a journalist named Ms. Marianne Tam. And it is an article concerning then crime intelligence boss. He was a divisional commissioner of crime intelligence, Lieutenant General Peter Jacobs. I'm just waiting for it to be flighted.
For this purpose, we need only look at this thin file in front of us?
That is so, Commissioners, and I must apologize that you only received it this morning, and I will take you through it. It's the thin file with the yellow tabs.
Yeah, thank you.
So you'll recall, Commissioners, that
I assume Mr. Valley also has a copy.
Thank you, Commissioner. I was about to raise the issue. We haven't received a hard copy. I assume that the thin file that my learned friend refers to is what was disclosed at 5 minutes to 12 yesterday morning. I'm not sure if you could clarify.
I'm not sure what time it was sent to you, Mr. Valley, so I'm not entirely sure of that, but it's the affidavit from Ms. Marianne Tam that I'm referring to.
No, we haven't received it. We've received it now.
Well, and my apologies for that, because you should have received it sooner.
Yes. Could we ask for 5 minutes just to go through the affidavit, if that might be in order?
Let's adjourn. You'll indicate when you are ready. I won't indicate a time here.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you.
We are ready to resume. Please make sure your devices are quiet. Thank you.
Mr. Valley, you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. We've taken the few minutes that you've granted us. We've
Yes.
gone through the disclosure. I believe it's marked CJC 366.1 through CJC 366.4.
Yes, yes.
We're not sure about the relevance, but we'll learn as you learn about where
Where
friend
this
is
is-
going this morning.
Where this is going. Thank you very much, Mr. Valley. Thanks, Mr. Sim.
Thank you, Chair. So, Chair, where I was at first was just to take you back to the chat itself, the exchange between Lieutenant General Khan and the other officer, and that's displayed now. The article there is the article by Ms. Marian Tam. It was published in the Daily Maverick. And to remind you, the response from General Khan was, this journalist is a good friend of Jacobs and Vieri. And again, Lieutenant General Jacobs is the subject of that media report. And then the officer replies, it's clear as all articles are written by a single journalist. Counter needs to be activated on this journal. And the date of that conversation is 17 January 2021. Chair, I wish to submit into the exhibit bundle CJC 366. That is a set of documents pertaining to an affidavit that we obtained this weekend from Ms. Marian Tam. 366.1 is the affidavit itself. I'll take you to the affidavit, but what the affidavit shows, after this exchange, Ms. Tam was the victim of a housebreaking in which 2 of her laptops were stolen. So it begins with Ms. Tam saying that she's a senior journalist at the Daily Maverick. That's on page 1 of the affidavit. Chair, if you don't mind, I won't read the entire thing, but only the relevant aspects. The second paragraph is where she describes the incident. She says, during the late evening of Saturday, 13 March 2021, I returned my house, she means to my house, situated on the corner of, and then she provides the address, to discover a break-in with my office ransacked, that is her home office, desk drawers emptied and pulled out, and my 2014 Daily Maverick Mac laptop stolen. Upon closer inspection, it became clear that the thief or thieves had also taken a personal MacBook Pro, which I had refurbished for my older daughter from her bedroom. This device had a Daily Maverick sticker on the casing. An iPad was taken from my youngest daughter's bedroom and a handful of jewelry, and then she describes the jewelry that was stolen. She says other large ticket items such as a flat screen TV, Bluetooth speakers, various cameras, and even a small amount of cash were left intact. She goes on to say that I informed the Claremont police station that evening. An officer arrived, took a look around, and registered the case, and she gives the CAS number, which is CAS 139/3/2020. But I believe that's a typo because this was in 2021, so it should be 139/3/2021. I was later sent an SMS by a Sergeant N. Getra to acknowledge this. On page 2, she says, at the time, the officer could find no entry point to my house, which was worrying. Only the following morning, when 2 other more senior officers arrived to take a statement, was it discovered that the intruders had entered the house by cutting the iron burglar bars outside the lounge window. The curtain had been pulled shut, which is why the SAPS official the previous night could not find any entry point. A fingerprint expert arrived a few days later and informed us that the intruder or intruders had left no prints and had worn gloves, as was clear from smudges around the window frame. In the rest of the affidavit, she provides some background to the incident and other attacks on journalists. And then she signs and dates it on page 3, the affidavit. She annexes to her affidavit 2 photographs. The first, which is on page 4, is a picture of her home office with drawers open. And the second on page 5 is the entry point. It's the picture with the burglar bars bent and the window opened. The attachments following that relate to the background information that Ms. Tam provided in the affidavit. And then, Commissioners, if you look at page 8, 9, and 10, this is information that we were provided by the SAPS, which they retrieved from their system. And probably the first is a description of the incident. We don't need to go into it, it's a repetition. It's the note that was taken by the officer who first attended the scene. The second is just a screenshot of the case details. And then on page 10, you'll see, again, it's information of the case details. It registers the station as Claremont and the CAS number and the incident. So it's confirmed from the side of the SAPS that this case was opened and this is what happened. The case was closed. No further detection was possible to determine who the perpetrators were. So that was the incident. Now,
please remind me, what was the date the journalist wrote this and that should be done about this journal? The date of that text. The date of the text.
17 January 2021.
Oh, all right, thank you.
And this incident took place on the 13th of March 2021. Now, Chair, I don't, this later housebreaking in March on this evidence alone can't conclusively show that it was linked to the WhatsApp exchange. But the sequence is alarming. And I raise it because it requires further investigation. It's a coincidence. It can't just be a coincidence. In my mind, which is why I think it needs to be referred.
That's exactly why I was interested in the closeness of the timing, yeah.
That's correct. It was less than 2 months between the exchange and then this event. And then, as Ms. Tam tried to say, this is in the context of other attacks on journalists, which I also referred to on Friday. So, Chair, it warrants investigation also into whether General Khan or the other officer took any steps after the housebreaking to either distance themselves from it, given the fact that they had this exchange, or to ensure that there isn't any member involved or any state-linked actor that was involved in the housebreaking. And if General Khan were here, I would ask those questions, because if that had not taken place, then that omission too would be significant. So, what is disturbing is that on the face of it, you have a senior crime intelligence officer informing another member of crime intelligence that a journalist appears to favor particular senior police officers, one of whom happens to be General Khan's superior. That's Lieutenant General Peter Jacobs. The response from the other member is not, well, journalists be journalists. It's, we need to do a counter. And there's no evidence that General Khan said, no, don't do that kind of thing, or trying to prevent him from taking any, trying to prevent the other officer from taking any steps that may be inappropriate. So what it shows is that there's a willingness to use intelligence, crime intelligence capabilities and crime intelligence resources for the purposes of using those resources against a journalist who you are not comfortable with their reporting. It's not a lawful policing objective. It's for the investigation of a journalist whose view you don't like. And it's important, it's not just a semantic issue. It's one, crime intelligence exists to analyze and gather information and intelligence for lawful policing purposes. So it's not a mechanism for monitoring and intimidating anyone, particularly journalists. And I must say that I should be clear. I mean, it's not to say that journalists don't get things wrong. Journalists do get things wrong. But the appropriate response would be to correct the information, to report it to the senior editor, to report to the press ombudsman. My point is that there are institutional responses that are more appropriate than activating a counter against a journalist. And I won't spend too much time more on it other than to say that, of course, we appreciate in the constitutional democracy that journalists play an important role in exposing wrongdoing within public institutions, and including in the police. So the broader systemic concern that I just wish to place before the Commission is that the exchange reflects a danger that crime intelligence could be used for factional or personal and retaliatory purposes. And that is something that we should take note of in the Commission, where senior officers or their allies can even contemplate using such measures, then the safeguards are not working, the safeguards are not in place. And that's the point I wish to make as a result of that exchange, Commissioners.
Thank you, thank you. But for what you said at the beginning, it is exactly for similar reasons that I wanted the name to be exposed, but for the reasons you gave, I will not insist that we do so, at least not at this stage.
Thank you, Chair. And from my position, it's merely to say not at this stage, but that I will establish whether there are any real risks in exposing the name publicly or not.
Ms. Hassim, good morning.
Good morning.
My reading of page 2 of the affidavit. So there's the heading, some background, and then reference to 2 articles. And the SANEF one, which is the last one with the blue color on your printout, suggests to me that this journalist believes that the break-in was linked to her writing stories about crime intelligence, surveilling journalists. So I don't read it to suggest that what was said in the chats was the reason for the break-in into her house. My reading of it is that her writing articles talking about crime intelligence, surveilling journalists, at least she believes that that was what resulted in the break-in. And that's one way of reading it. You may read it, obviously, in many ways. I just thought that should be placed on record so that we don't create the impression that she says in her affidavit that because of the chats, there was then a break-in at her house.
That's correct, Commissioner. She doesn't say that at all, that she wasn't aware of the conversation that took place until recently, that took place between General Khan and this officer. And what's clear is that there's a lot of reporting that was taking place that on crime intelligence, you see, Commissioner, it's 2 things. It's reporting on what's taking place amongst senior officers in crime intelligence. And then there are attacks alleged attacks against his journalists, which appear to come from crime intelligence. And then there's the attack. So all of it together is the context. She doesn't link the two. I'm the one who's making the link between the two. And I'm saying that the sequencing is relevant, the timing is relevant, and that it bears, it warrants further investigation.
Ms. Hassan, insofar as you want to make something of effect, whether or not General Khan said anything to distance himself from this, and obviously you would want to draw certain conclusions from that. Was this incident publicized in the media?
This particular housebreaking incident, I don't...
Yeah, because what you said assumes that General Khan would have known about it. If you're going to make anything of the fact that he may not have, he didn't comment, if it turns out to be a fact, if you want to make something of that he said nothing, he did not distance himself, then you first have to establish, it seems to me, you first have to establish that he would have known of the incident. And the reason you say he knows of the incident is because it was publicized or it was reported within crime intelligence, if you like. Do we have that kind of background fact?
I can't have that background fact. My point was, if General Khan were here, these are the questions I would put to General Khan. As a crime intelligence officer, it's possible that this would have come to his attention. Maybe not. Maybe it's just a common housebreaking. But we have to see it in context of the conversation with the other member. So we don't know whether there was a report back, for example, to General Khan following this incident. But obviously the first thing would be, if General Khan were here, would be to establish what he knew around the incident.
Yeah, I guess my point is, if he never comes to testify, we obviously would, I'm sure he does want, hopefully he wants to come and testify and clarify things. But if he doesn't testify, the point I'm making is there are facts that we don't have, that we don't, as matters stand, that we don't have, that we wouldn't be able to get to that point where we say, well, he failed to distance himself from this, and therefore he is implicated in this. That's the only point I'm seeking to.
That's correct. In the absence of any objective facts to that point, then we would not be able to draw that conclusion or make that inference. That's correct.
Thank you.
Commissioners, I'm terribly sorry to interrupt, but now that I've seen where...
Your mic.
Oh, the red light is on. I'm not sure if you can hear.
Oh, it's shielded by...
Oh, let me just do this. That gives you line of sight. Thank you, Commissioner. Now that I've seen where Ms. Hassan has gone with this morning's evidence, which I emphasize was disclosed to us as proceedings commenced, as you've seen, I reiterate that we are not yet favored with instructions from General Khan. I mentioned that while he is responsive and there is signs of improvement, he is unable to converse with me. I went to the hospital in an attempt to see to what extent he's able to converse. Now, in as much as we don't have instructions, there is the issue of residual rights or residual instruction. I have to act in General Khan's best interest to protect his rights. And what I've just seen this morning as an opening gambit of proceedings troubles me. It troubles me because we were not privy to the intended evidence. We were not privy to where the evidence was intended to be led. And that creates a troubling situation because the impression that is given, in as much as Ms. Hassan says that all of these facts that she leads is circumstantial and then not circumstantial, it has to be one or the other. You can't approbate and reprobate. Either it's circumstantial or it's not. But the difficulty we find here is that we have no instructions on this. We don't know, or we were not given prior notice of this evidence. It becomes worse when one has regard to evidence that was disclosed to us yesterday at 5 minutes to 12. That's additional evidence outside of this small bundle here. And we have to object, or at least for purposes of this proceeding, object to the manner in which this incremental disclosure is coming about. We've previously highlighted and tabled our objection in relation to the disclosure historically, and now there's continuing disclosures. In fact, on Friday, there was additional disclosures in between, which I did not object to because it seemed that it may have been a printing issue. But it's not, because those were material documents. And I now have to wonder whether or not the incremental disclosure and the leading of evidence, essentially by ambush, passes constitutional muster. We contend that it does not. So at the very least, we simply want our objection to be recorded for the manner in which these proceedings are being conducted by the evidence leaders. Ideally, Chairperson and Commissioners, this matter must be postponed until such time as Ms. Hassam tells us that the House is in order, this is the bundle, there's going to be nothing that's going to occur from this point. And at some point in time in the future, hopefully, with General Khan improving in his health, at the minimum, we can put before this commission an affidavit in answer to what Ms. Hassam has led and intends leading. Even if General Khan is unfit to come and testify in person, I would prefer that he is present so that he can refute the evidence, but right now he can't. And factually, and if I may draw from a colloquial expression, they're kicking him while he's down. And it troubles me significantly. Those are my submissions, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Valley. Ms. Hassam?
Chair, unfortunately, this is a commission of inquiry. This is not a trial that we're conducting against General Khan. Information comes to us when it comes to us. The investigations are ongoing. This is an investigative inquiry. The affidavit that was presented to the Commission this morning was only obtained yesterday, late yesterday. I couldn't have provided it to Mr. Valley any sooner than yesterday. And I apologize that he did not get it at least earlier this morning. I had thought that it was sent to him. But it couldn't have been provided sooner because it was only made available yesterday. And that's the nature of the Commission of Inquiry.
I noticed the date of commissioning is 5 July 2026, according to the stamp.
That's correct.
Which I assume is the stamp of the Commissioner of Oaths.
That's correct, Chair. It's dated and stamped by the Commissioner yesterday. And so I can't take it any further than that, but to say that when the evidence comes to us, we need to put it before the Commission.
Was the affidavit solicited by the evidence leaders, or was it offered to the evidence leaders?
Well,
because if it is the former, a point might be made that it should have been sought much earlier than yesterday.
No, Chair, it was a combination of being approached by certain individuals, followed with only yesterday a request that if it is going to be placed before the Commission, it needs to be in affidavit format. So as the evidence leaders didn't have knowledge of this before yesterday. And so it was only once I was seized with the affidavit that I could then make it circulated.
All right, please continue then. I thought you were still making your points.
No, Chair, my point is really about the nature of a commission of inquiry, and we've made the point before. And it's unfortunate. I mean, this isn't a trial, so we don't have a case that's built up, that we disclose, and then we go to trial. This is an ongoing investigation, and it's not entirely in our control. And the second point is that in relation to Mr. Valley's submissions that this is unfair because we are continuing, even when General Khan is in hospital, we had alerted General Khan's legal representative of our intention to present the evidence as it is, because this commission has a limited lifespan and we have a compressed timetable and we needed to provide the evidence. That's simply what we're doing, is we're presenting the evidence to the Commission. And we've also made it clear that that will be, obviously General Khan when we do await a response, when it is possible to get a response from General Khan to the evidence that's being presented.
Now, according to the current plan, the last day of the hearing of evidence is 31 July 2026.
The end of August. The Commission and evidence leaders felt that we would, in order to get as maximum evidence in, we would run the hearings all the way until the end of July, which only affords us 1 month to write.
So that addresses the point about possibly postponing and not hearing any evidence, which is a point made by Mr. Valley.
And Chair, that was the point that was made in response to the in-camera application as well. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. A very short reply,
Briefly,
2 minutes, 2 minutes, and no more, please.
Briefly, Chair, the manner in which we expected the evidence leaders to proceed to know what is the case that he needs to prepare.
I have never understood the regulation 10.6 notices to mean that that is all that will be covered at the hearing. What the 10.6 notice does is to focus that the Commission wants to get an idea of ahead of the hearing. I've never understood it to mean that that's the sum total of what will be covered at the hearing.
Indeed, and I accept that. And that's the reason why there is the statement in the 10.6 that this is not all of the evidence. We may amend, expand, etc. However,
Yes,
notice is still a requirement.
I probably misunderstood you then. I'm sorry.
No need to apologize, Chair. We're still unpacking the issue. We would expect at a minimum a reasonable amount of notice be given. And in the absence of notice, we are prejudiced. That is the point. I'll leave it there, Chair. I'm not going to take it any further, except that the objection is now recorded. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Valley. If it were a witness who is not in the situation General Khan finds himself, this would have been quite easy to resolve in the sense that we would simply say, General Khan will have access to all of the documentation that has been served on him, and he will also have access to the transcript, and he may, down the line, address whatever issue he needs. But because he's in the situation in which he is, we do not know whether by the time we conclude the hearing of testimony, he will be in a position to address all of these issues, having had sight of what I've referred to. What happens will depend on what his position, what his situation is when we conclude the hearing of the evidence. But to cut a long story short, we must proceed with the hearing of evidence. We will not postpone.
As it pleases. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Chair, that concludes the issue I wished to deal with that related to the use of crime intelligence resources for purposes other than lawful policing objectives. I
do apologize.
Now we know Commissioner Baloyi loves Maskandi music. Yes, Ms. Asim.
Thanks, Chair. So, Chair, what I would propose to do now then is to return to the tenders chapter. And the last tender that we were dealing with was the tender on auto parts. And for this, Commissioners, you will need the annexures file, annexures to WhatsApp chats file, and your core bundle.
Core bundle is file number?